conference deals with a slightly different topic, which is career counseling. And my title is Need or Luxury. So who thinks it's a need and who thinks it's a luxury? Need?
Need.
Luxury? Okay, well if it's a need, how come we don't see career counseling in our schools? Why don't we practice what we preach? Let's see. This is a highly personal topic for me because I'm a victim of lack of career counseling. And believe it or not, I studied business administration. I have a BA in business administration. And then I found the right path after that. But when I went to New York to open up, I was a student there, completing my graduate degree. I was opening an account at a bank, and the teller was explaining to me the difference between debit and credit. And I said, what's that? You know, so clearly that wasn't for me. Thank God, life gave me a second chance, and I was able to study something that I like. But it was quite a torturous, arduous path, and I don't wish it on anyone. Even if it's a happy ending, doesn't mean the process was enjoyable. So I'm hoping in this short lecture to give you some ideas so you can avoid some of the pitfalls that I had to endure. I'd like to focus on four main concerns. The first one is the arbitrary choices that college students make, and I think most of you are college students. Arbitrary meaning that without any thinking, impulsively, without any planning, your friend is doing, I don't know, business administration, you follow suit. Someone advises you to do engineering, or you like the sound of it, you want to do engineering. You have no idea about the difference between, for example, computer engineering and computer science, but the sound is nicer. There are myths held by students, parents, and administrators. For example, every time I'd come to Lebanon during my graduate program, people ask me, what are you studying? I say psychology, etc. And immediately they say, oh, there are no jobs in Lebanon. How do you know there are no jobs? Oh, there are no jobs. So these myths are very dangerous because I know more than a student who decided not to study what they really wanted to study because mom said there are no jobs for graphic designers. And mom, why is she a self-proclaimed expert on graphic design in Lebanon? She didn't survey the Lebanese market. You know, this is very dangerous because people make decisions accordingly. Lack of basic skills to make choices, because this is a difficult process to choose a major and then a profession and a career, etc. And finally, the high price of lack of career counseling. If you're in the wrong field, then you know, sometimes people are cavalier about it. They say, oh, if you don't like it, you switch majors, etc. It's easy to say, switch majors after taking all these courses and paying all this money and making all these efforts. It's not easy to say, oh, yeah, I switch majors. And many people are, you know, like in their 40s and 50s, and they don't like what they're doing, you know, for a living, and now it's too late to change. Why isn't career counseling a priority for many schools? I'm not generalizing. Forgive me when we say school. I'm sure there are schools that are doing a great job in Lebanon. But in my experience, because they feel that, you know, you don't see the effects of lack of career counseling in the short term. It's not like, you know, passing the Lebanese baccalaureate or making it to college. So when people, you know, get lost in the process, etc., and they make the wrong choices and they suffer, etc., you don't see that immediately. And then there are misguided notions that, you know, I don't know about your schools where you graduated from, but many schools that I know in Lebanon, they hold like a yearly career day or something. You know, they invite a bunch of professionals and they ask their students to attend this. And they feel that, you know, they did it justice. We do career counseling, or they do these very shallow tests. They get, I don't know, sometimes like a company or something, and they give their students some tests, and, you know, students discover that they should be in sciences or engineers or educators, etc. This is not it. Unfortunately, we cannot oversimplify things. Let me ask you a multiple choice question. When should we start career counseling or career education? In high school? Secondary school? Like high school meaning the last year, the 12th grade. Secondary school starting 10th grade, 11th grade. End of middle school like brevet, 9th grade. Or even earlier, like KGs, what do you think?
KG.
KGs? KGs? Secondary? Middle? End of middle? Well, we should start very early. We should start in KG, and I tell you why and how. In preschool, what should happen? Because this is, as I said, it's a long process, and you should start with preschoolers, with the KGs. You know, at this stage, kids are very tangible, very concrete. They want to see things. So you can introduce careers that have uniforms, tools, equipment, etc., just to start acquainting them with this field. In elementary school, you can go a step higher and incorporate career education in the curriculum. Like they can read a book, a passage on a certain profession, on a certain, I don't know, something, maybe a work value. You can invite guest speakers, and here I say, carefully selected. You don't want to invite a dentist or you know, a lawyer, because these are well-known jobs, but you can invite someone who does web design, for example, someone who's a chiropractor, this is unknown, a speech therapist, an occupational therapist. These are different careers. Let's introduce our kids to these careers. Field trips, of course, to hospitals, to banks, to, you know, wherever. In middle school, you have to start systematically doing what we call self-exploration activities. Some of them are formal, like through, you know, the tests, etc. Or it can be just informal. We can ask students, you know, what are your strengths, what are your weaknesses, what are your values, where would you like to work, you know, etc. What are some of your personality traits? You can talk about role of professions in society. Different jobs have different roles in society. When you sell, I don't know, candy, it's different from being a social worker, different from being a banker, etc., or a politician. In some cases, you can make a huge difference in people's life. Other cases, you just make some money and that's it. You can address stereotypes. You know, engineers should be women, and you know, engineers should be men, teachers should be women. Now we don't see any male teachers in elementary school. And isn't that alarming? So that's because of that, because of these stereotypes. And my thinking of, oh, education doesn't pay, my cousin, female cousin, who has a master's from the US in engineering, industrial or electrical, she came back to Lebanon, worked for Hadar al-Handasa with a starting salary of $400. I don't see why engineering pays more than education. So anyway, in secondary school, they should start data collection, because most decisions or poor decisions are based on insufficient information. People don't collect information. So we should start collecting information on jobs, on majors, on, you know, etc. Decision-making process has to be taught. This is a difficult process, and, you know, this is a skill that has to be learned. How to deal with dilemmas, you know, and the role of counselor here is critical. That's why I'm hoping that every school has a counselor or part-time counselor or something, because, you know, this is very advanced and very elaborate. Impact of parents, sometimes it's positive, sometimes it's negative. You know, parents, and you know from your own experiences, parents can, you know, point in the right or wrong direction depending on their own values, but then they forget that you are individuals and you have your strengths, your weaknesses, your values, etc. You're not a continuation, an extension of them. Now, I'd like to quote Dr. George Theodori, who was an AB professor, who did a pioneering study, and it's kind of one of a kind, it was never replicated, back in '79. It's a huge study, it was published in a book. I believe it's available at AUB. My time is up? Okay. Just one short conclusion. He found that Lebanese youth and young adults lack maturity, so most of us make choices and we don't know what the hell we're doing. You know, that's very alarming. Okay, today we have over 130 majors leading to over 200 professions. It's not easy to choose one of them. And okay, I guess we can. What are the fastest growing professions? Do we know that? Do we know that in Lebanon? Do we have statistics? Does the Ministry of Labor provide us with any statistics? So we go into professions, we don't know what we're doing. We don't know what the projection, 5 years, 10 years from today. You can find all of this stuff on the internet related to the US or Canada or Europe, but we don't have anything like that in Lebanon. Okay, these are some fastest growing jobs. And very quickly, what is the job that's most lucrative, the highest earning in the US? I don't know about Lebanon. Anyone? Very quickly. Plumbing? No. Huh? No. Medicine. And within medicine, doctors, what field?
Orthodontist?
No, anesthesiology. They make up to $267,000 a year. Okay. The question you should never ask, do you advise me to, I get students coming, do you advise me to do that, do you advise me to go into college, do you advise me? And I always answer, I advise you to do nursing, because it's something that's always in demand, but you really want to be a nurse. Don't ask that question. It's like bringing someone and say, do you advise me to marry this guy? How can I answer that? I would advise you based on my own priorities, my values, my interests, but not based on what you want. This is based on statistics provided by Daily Star 6 years ago, and they found, according to them, that 40% of graduates cannot find jobs in their field in Lebanon. Some fields are oversaturated, and yet you see thousands and thousands of people flocking to business schools thinking that jobs are lining up when they graduate. Not true. And then other fields are virtually there's no supply. So I'm hoping that schools would give priority to career education and counseling, doing it the right way. Okay. Parents support, not pressure. So parents have to be educated about that. Ministry of Labor, please give us reports. If you don't have these reports, do studies. It's your responsibility, and share them. They have to be, readily available to us. I guess that's it. Thank you.